Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you 2 tricks to increase top end on your bass guitar. We're going to be looking at getting more top end on bass guitar today, but before we dive in, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and look at this bass guitar. So as I was working through this mix, when I got to the bass guitar, I found that it didn't have enough top end to really cut through the mix. It had good lows to it, but up on the top end, anything past like 1K, 2K, there was just no top end for me to boost up here. So let me play you the track first of all, so you can hear what we're dealing with here, and then I'll solo up our finished bass guitar so you can hear where we're ending up with this mix.
Oh, I'd catch the first train back to where I live. Oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again. Oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again.
So you can hear there's still not a lot of top end, but there's enough there now that it cuts through the mix and that you can hear the top end and perceive what notes the bass player is attacking here. There's a couple things we're going to do. First of all, let me take all the processing off here on the bus. The first thing I'm doing here is adding a distortion track. So let me show you without the distortion track. This is just our raw bass guitar, the DI and the amp track. No distortion track, no processing on the bus. So raw bass guitar sound. You can hear there's no top end perceivable at all coming from the bass. It's all low end, and the low end sounds great, but we need top end to be able to hear what notes the bass player is playing and to be able to perceive it in the mix, especially if we're not listening on a great sounding system, which a lot of times people aren't these days. Earbuds, Bluetooth speakers in the car. Sometimes you don't have great sub information coming out of those systems. So you need some top end to be able to hear your bass inside the mix. Let's also take a look here on the EQ. If I take off this huge top end boost here, let's see where our bass is kind of rolling off. You can see on the equalizer here on the spectrum, there's a pretty drastic roll off happening at about 1K here, and by 2K, there's no top end information left for us to get. So what we're going to do here, first of all, is I'm going to add a distortion track. So I'm going to reach right here. All I'm doing here is I'm taking the bass amplifier track and I'm duplicating it. So here's what our bass amplifier track sounds like. So no distortion here. This is our duplicated amp track, and all I'm doing is rolling off the bottom end. Same thing I'm doing on the amp track here. So we've got everything above 180 on our bass amp track here. So just the top end there, or all we have of the top end on our bass amp track. And what I'm doing is I'm running that into the red light distortion plugin here from Studio One. So any kind of distortion plugin or gain plugin will work well. All we want to do is distort the bass guitar and try and get some extra top end that we can boost up on our bass guitar to help it cut through the mix and to help it be heard up in the top end above, like, 3, 4, 500 hertz here. So if you're working in Pro Tools or anything else, the Sans Amp is a great plugin. This is what I'm using here inside of Studio One. It's a very, very cool distortion plugin, red light distortion. What I'm doing is I'm pulling the drive up pretty much all the way here. We're up at 10 on the drive. I'm using the second stage here, and I'm running the hard tube setting. So a little bit more aggressive than the default settings here. And then I've got the output pulled all the way down because we're pushing so much drive in that we're getting a lot more volume out of the plugin. Let me pull this up here so we can hear what we're doing. We'll start without the distortion plugin, and then I'll kick it in. You can hear now we have some top end up there. There's some grit, there's some string noise, some fret noise that we have. All that stuff is going to help us hear our bass guitar better inside the mix here. So all we're doing here, duplicating the bass amp track and then distorting it quite a bit here so we get some extra top end. That's our first trick here, duplicating our amp track, adding distortion to it so we have some perceivable top end now. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix that in with our bass amp and our bass DI. So we're going to pull this distortion track up and mix these all together and see where we end up here. Right there at about -10, -11 is where I'm feeling it's adding what we need to hear some of that top end inside the mix here. Now, that's tip number one or trick number one. Trick number two is then boosting on your EQ, on your bus for your bass overall to bring up and emphasize that top end that we generated or added with the distortion track here. So I'm up at about 4K, 3.95K, and I'm boosting 17 dB, 16.8 dB. That is a lot of top end. But since there was nothing up there before, we're not adding noise or anything like that. We're bringing up the top end that we generated or added with our bass distortion track here. So listen before and after this top end boost. And you can watch visually on the spectrum analyzer here to see all the top end we add. So now we've generated some top end energy with our bass distortion track, and we've emphasized it by boosting that top end area. And anywhere from like 2, 3, 4 up to 5K is going to give you this top end fret noise and pick noise on your bass guitar that you'll be able to hear inside the mix here. So let's throw it back inside the track here, and I'll A/B these two elements. So I'll mute out our bass distortion and turn off our processing here. You can hear our before and after inside the track.
Oh, I'd catch the first train back to where I live. Oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again. Oh, I'd catch the first train back to where I live. Oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again. Oh, I'd catch the first train
So if you're struggling to get your bass to cut through the mix and you don't have enough top end, try these two tricks. So our first trick is adding a bass distortion track to generate extra top end information. And then our second trick is just boosting on our EQ on the bass bus to emphasize that top end information that we generated with the distortion track. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.